Hi guys, welcome back to my amazing kitchen. And if you are new here, kindly click on that subscribe button right now and join the amazing family today. I'm super excited to have you in the kitchen today because we are making Fante Fante and Yarukofie. I'm transporting you right back onto the streets of Tadi and Elmina, Sekep Kustasa. Come along and let's do some cooking. Since we cannot make Fante Fante without fresh fish, I have my red snapper here. In Ghana, they would normally use red fish, but it's very difficult to find where I live, so this red snapper will do just perfectly well. I also have here my pepper, and anytime we are cooking with fish, you want to spice it up a little bit because it makes it tastier. I have my salt and some palm oil, just a little bit of palm oil. And for my seasonings, I have some fennel seeds, aniseed, and some rosemary. I have my onions and I'm using the red type, but you can use white if that's what you have. It doesn't really matter. I also have some fresh tomatoes and some ginger paste, and I'm using my homemade all-purpose marinade for this. You know how I love my passata, but in this recipe, passata will not give you the best results. So, fresh tomatoes is the way to go for this Fante Fante. And as always, I will list all of the ingredients in the description box below. I got my fish super fresh from the fish market. It's partially cleaned, but I still have to take off the fins, the tail, and the mouth. But if yours is not cleaned, you'd have to clean the stomach as well. Make it nice and neat so that our Fante Fante is going to be delicious. Fante Fante is all about the fish, so you really need to use a good quality fish for this recipe. Now I want to cut my fish into two. And the reason why I do this is because we are going to cook the fish for a very long time in the tomato sauce. So if you cut them really small, they are going to break apart on you. And we don't want that. You want to keep your fish whole. Now I'm going to season my fish with a little bit of aniseed and my homemade all-purpose marinade. If you don't have this, just blend your ginger, garlic, onion, and add it to your fish. Season it really well with some salt and then set it aside. Oftentimes, most people confuse Fante Fante with ngofroye, which is palm oil stew, and NTITII. There is a slight difference between NTITII and Fante Fante. NTITII is made with what they call in Ghana sasakwesi, which I believe are anchovies, and ngofroye is simply palm oil stew made with fish. So Fante Fante is not the same as NTITII or ngofroye. So next, I cut my tomatoes and onions and add it to my blender, and then add my pepper and my seasoning, and I'm going to add my homemade all-purpose marinade, which is my ginger paste, and then blend everything together until it becomes really smooth. So moving on, you want to pour half of your tomato mixture into your saucepan, and preferably a shallow saucepan so you can see what's happening in your pot. And you are going to layer your fish in the sauce. You don't want to lay it anyhow. You want to layer them in a way that they are not going to break or disturb each other. And then pour over the rest of your mixture. You want to cover the fish fully with the rest of your tomato mixture. And then add your salt, and remember the fish is already seasoned with salt, so you don't want to add too much salt. I'm going to chop up one of my red onions and add it as well, and then shake it until it is well covered, and then transfer it to my stove. Once on your stove, you want to cook your Fante Fante on a medium-low heat, as high heat is going to break your fish apart. And one crucial thing, do not stir this sauce, but take it off your stove, shake it, and put it back. Anytime your hands are itching to stir, that is a good moment to pick it up, shake it, and put it back on the stove. Whatever you do, Do not stir this sauce or your fresh fish is going to fall apart. As you can see, it is cooked down really beautifully. Look at the level we started with and where it is right now. It is not yet done. As you can see, the big bubbles in there. It still tells us that there is still a lot of moisture in your Fante Fante. So give it time to cook for the fish to infuse its deliciousness into your sauce. So having said that, Fante Fante is not one of those stews that you cook in a rush or in a hurry. You really need to give it time to cook. So next I add my palm oil because our Fante Fante is almost ready. Usually I will add it at the very end, and so abrochin palm oil nala adijen jembi. So I add it a bit earlier so it can cook together beautifully with the sauce. Can you see how your sauce instantly transforms once the palm oil hits the tomatoes? You can tell it's going to be really delicious. Our Fante Fante is almost ready, so I'm going to finish it off with some sliced onions and it will be ready to be served with some rice and our Fante dokun or some yam. The possibilities here are endless. You really need to try this delicious Fante delicacy. You really need to take your time and cook down the tomato really well. If you don't, the water will separate from the stew when you serve it and your Fante Fante will turn into a tomato fish pond. Don't say I didn't tell you. Oh. So remember that cooking should always be fun and exciting. So try to cook each meal with love and see it radiate through the hearts of your family. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and see you in my next video. Bye.